Captain Jack. Above any others, Captain Jack's largest and most beloved admirers were the men and boys of Kaufman. This is after he moved to Kaufman in 1891 from here. The old man was a magnet to their metal, and they flocked around him in his home, where they were never turned away. Whenever he was on the square downtown, there was always a group ushering him from place to place, from bench to bench, trying to keep him shaded and content so he would stay a bit longer. They relished to hear him spin a tale, for his own life had been lived more daringly and adventuresome than any of their own, or those that could be bought in a dime novel. Every chance we could, myself and many of my friends would go see Captain Jack. Like the widows, we would take him a pear or a fresh plug, or show him a critter that we had caught or shot, just to be able to be with him. And with high anticipation, he undertook the notion to spout a tale or two. If luck was on our side, the captain might grace us with a tune from one of his fiddles. He would take a fiddle and push it hard against his chest, and then saw away at the strings and tunes that would send all of us into fits of jigs. There were times when he himself would get up and clog for us, stomping out a fandango loudly on the floor. There was always unexpected pleasures when in his presence, to share in his old songs and hear stories of pioneers he knew, one being the very Mr. Kaufman that the town was named for. The captain had literally hundreds of stories. The first I recall hearing about was the time he was on his way to Texas in a wagon train and had to fight an Indian chief. There were stories of hunting bears and panthers in East Texas and seeing buffalo herds. He had stories of Indian raids and scalpings of some of his family members and neighbors who were living in South Texas, and of Mexican prairie pirates coming across the border to rustle cattle, and the trips he made into Mexico to steal them back again. He was always excited when telling of ferrying Confederate soldiers across the Colorado River on their way to fight the Civil War, and of his resentment of ferrying the Yankees across afterwards. He told stories of once being a sheriff and of many shootouts, some involving his family, and the captain's best told stories were of the Texans whipping the Mexicans when he was a soldier in the Texas Army. But of all his stories, the ones I loved best were about his friendship with a man I considered my personal idol, Sam Houston. In Captain Jack, I had before me a man who had actually gone fishing with Houston, taken meals to Houston's house, played his fiddle for Houston's children. He was eager to relay these accounts in detail, so fine as to describe the exact pineapple design on a stenciled wall inside Houston's house. I will never forget the first time I met Captain Jack. I was 5 years old, and as we were leaving the house, he shook my hand. My brother Odell, knowing my fondness for Houston, said aloud, "Well, brother, you've just shook the hand that shook the hand of old Sam Houston." Up to that point, I had not realized the captain had known Houston, and I recall looking at my hand in astonishment, unbelieving that I actually knew a man who had known Sam Houston. And you can bet your last dime I couldn't wait for my visits with Captain Jack, where there was a painting of Houston on the wall, of him wearing a straw hat, holding a fancy walking stick. And on the mantel in his room, there sat a glass Ambravision of Houston made of is that the right word, Ambravision? New to me. Of Houston made in real life. In that likeness, Houston was an old man and was still holding that walking stick. Captain Jack told us how he had made a gift of that stick to Houston for allowing his daughter, Lucretia, to paint Sam Houston's portrait when she was just a little girl. One particular trip made to see Captain Jack, I was with my brother, Ed Dempsey Broughton, Sawney Nash, and 3 or 4 of the other Nash boys. The captain told us to follow into his carriage house, and there he took from a steamer trunk an old buffalo hide. Wrapped inside that skin was a bare-boned saddle with a plain leather seat and brass stirrups. Captain Jack threw the buffalo skin across the hitching rail, threw that saddle up top it, and allowed each of us to sit upon it. Words cannot describe the fondness I felt for the day that the old man who saw fit to share that treasure with us. While we all took our turn astride that saddle, he told us it had been Santa Anna's. Words that created a tingle in my cheeks that rose flushed from the top of my toes. He told us that after the Texans had won the battle at San Jacinto, that Sam Houston saw Santa Anna's horse wandering on the battlefield, and he directed the captain to ride the horse and tether it safely for him. Sam Houston then told him to take the saddle from the horse and made a gift to him for saving the life of his friend Deep Smith, who Captain Jack served under. The story of that saddle is in dispute, and someday we may know the answer to that, but I think between Lisa and Ann and I, we don't think really that saddle was Santa Anna's. We think that was just part of the story. But he was a great friend of Sam Houston's, and I think that's like listening to an audio from a guy who was 5 years old in 1891. Okay, let's move on. We have 2 more things to do here. We have to unveil the plaque that we've put up to honor Captain Jack and the Ferry, and we have to replace this flag with another flag. So first of all, I'd like to have we built this little post for it, and here it is, and it's here in perpetuity for people of Bastrop and tourists to see. So everybody grab a piece of that and yank it off. Beautiful, there you go. Okay, Lewis and Graham. My 2 grandsons are going to help me with the flag. This, do what?
Read the plaque. What's it say?
It says Nash's Ferry.
That last one was a good one. Okay, that's it for the formal ceremonies.